Welcome to the Powerlifting and Power Ballads podcast, where we bring you a weekly dose of powerlifting news, tips, and training advice with a touch of 80s rock ballads. This podcast is presented by Team Roar Powerlifting, your source of the most comprehensive coaching and meet day preparation. Here are your hosts, Josh Rohr and Laura Sturm.
All right, welcome to the Powerlifting and Power Ballads podcast. This is episode 49, and I am one of your hosts, Laura Sturm.
And I'm Josh Rohr. Welcome.
And I'm James Vang, one of the coaching staff for Team Roar.
Oh, yeah. Slash lifter.
Yeah.
So we're going to do a quick recap of how our nationals went. Overall, I think everybody did really well. We ended up with 7 national champions, 4 second place finishers, 3 third place finishers, and 1 fifth place finisher. So I think overall, we had a really, really good showing, and we're just going to kind of run down through real quick how everybody did. So starting off on Monday, we had Sonia McMillan. She was in the raw 63 kilo Masters 1 class. Unfortunately, she ended up missing weight. So she ended up as a guest lifter, but she finished 7 for 9, had a pretty solid day. Missed one of her lifts on, missed 2 of her lifts, really not on strength, but kind of on technicalities, aka downward motion on a squat, and she forgot a rack command on a bench. So I think missing weight was a little bit of a flustered her just a little bit, but I think overall it's going to be good experience because sometimes things go wrong and you got to learn to adapt. And I think overall she did pretty good, just dealing with the situation and continuing to, lift and push herself, even though she knew she wasn't going to medal or place because she was lifting as a guest lifter. So I thought that was pretty good. Day 2, we had 4 lifters on day 2. We had Alicia Webb. She won the raw 84 kilo Masters 2 division. She went 6 for 9, and she broke American records in squat, bench, deadlift, and total. So she did really well. But of course, if you know her, she knows she wasn't happy with herself because she didn't hit all PRs. But we are very proud of her. Cindy Yeager, this was her first national meet, and she went 9 for 9 and placed 3rd in the 84 plus kilo class. She had a 5 kilo squat PR, a 2.5 kilo bench PR, and she tied her PR total. She could have deadlifted more, but for positioning, we went really conservative in her deadlift just to make sure she stayed in 3rd. At first glance, she was like, "Oh, why didn't I deadlift more?" And then she found out she got 3rd. She was really happy. So we were super proud of her. She did really well, with a lot left in the tank as well. Session 3 on Tuesday, we had Joe House. He went 9 for 9 and won his weight class, the 93 kilo Masters 4. He's a Masters 4, so he's over age 70. He had a 10 kilo PR squat, 2.5 kilo PR bench, and a 5 kilo PR total at age 70. So not too bad. Won nationals there. And then James, you had John.
Yep. So John's situation was a little funky because I think due to some health reasons, he had to lose a ton of weight. So usually he would compete at the 120 weight class, but we were probably 12 or something kilos under that. So this was kind of more of an experiment for him and us, just to kind of see where his strength lies now that he's going to be dropping more and more weight. And once we finally get to like a healthy weight for him where he's satisfied with where he's at, then we can truly test where he's at. But he ended up squatting, I believe, 479 or something like that. He benched 319. And then I think we went for second place deadlift pull. And he pulled it, roughly up to his shins or something like that, and then just couldn't do it. But overall, pretty proud of his performance, especially, losing all of that weight going into the meet and then literally just having a few weeks to really prepare. So pretty happy for him.
I thought he did really well. Wednesday, we started off with Stacy Metcalf. She was in the 63 kilo M2. She went 7 for 9, finished in second place. She had a 5 kilo squat PR, Her goal for a while has been to squat 150. She squatted 154. So that was huge for her. And then she had a 7.5 kilo total PR. So I thought that was a really, really good day for her. I think the biggest thing that I take away from her lifting that on whatever day, Wednesday that was, is just her ability to handle all of the chaos around her. I know that's one thing that she's been working on really hard is being able to, focusing on controlling what she can control. And, we had 4 lifters in that session. So, the coach that's normally working with her, myself, was not able to be there. Ashley did a really good job taking care of her, and Stacy did a really good job of, handling the atmosphere and being able to communicate and everything. So I'm really proud of how she did.
Could I add one thing real
yeah.
quick with her? Something that we've been actually doing a lot lately too is kind of like trying to figure out what kind of foods that she should be intaking. So something that she did really well this training prep going into nationals was her nutrition. So in case people wanted to know why she did so well, hit some PRs and stuff like that, a lot of that had to do with her just figuring out what to eat before, kind of what to eat in between, and just, again, like what you're saying, being able to hold down all of those factors and succeed. So good performance overall.
Yeah, and in this session too, one thing to note is it was 2 platforms, but 1 flight on each platform. So the pace of the meet was super fast in terms of warming up, and I think that really messed up a lot of people. But I think all of our lifters, we kind of practiced that just a little bit ahead of time, so they knew, like, as soon as they came off from their squat, they were supposed to grab a couple bites to eat and then go do their first bench warm up before they even took their squat suit off. Like, so they're kind of eating, warming up bench, and getting dressed at the same time. And we just kind of practiced that a little bit just to make sure everybody, knew that was going to be the case. And they did a really good job handling that pace of the meet, I think. So up next, we had Amy Pancake. She was in the 69 kilo M2s. She went 4 for 9 and placed second. So attempt wise, it wasn't her best day, but she did hit a 15 kilo PR squat, which is huge. And a 15 kilo PR total, and she tied her PR bench and deadlift. But one thing that happened with her, like on her opening squat, she had some downward motion. So we had to repeat her second squat. So we weren't able to take the normal jumps we were hoping to take. And then on her second deadlift, she actually her back spasmed up real bad. So she wasn't even able to complete her second deadlift, which would have been a very routine weight for her. So there was a lot of weight left on the platform. And unfortunately, sometimes those things happen, and, we just have to roll with it. But, she placed second, having, what we would consider not her best day. And I think that's a huge, huge thing. And I'm really happy with how she handled everything and how she lifted. And I think we're only scratching the surface of what she's able to do. Laura Sterland, she was in 84 kilo M2s. She went 7 for 9 and won. So she was another one of the national champions. I don't think she hit any PRs, but she, the pace of the meet, I think, affected her a little bit warming up, but she did a really good job coming back and making attempts, and, again, did what she had to do to win. Katie Dodge, she was the 84 plus M1. She went 6 for 9 and placed third. She had a 5 kilo PR bench, a 10 kilo PR deadlift, and a 17.5 kilo PR total. So she actually had a little trouble getting into the meet on her bench. Wow. She missed her first 2, but somebody did some shirt magic. James, I don't know if you want to talk about that a little bit.
Ooh, yep. So, something that I always notice a lot with equipped lifters is, again, just having like loose sleeves. Most of the time, the chest plate for people's bench shirts usually are pretty snug. But, when you're making weight, or I guess when you're just getting nervous, some of the equipment that you have just tend to not fit well. So I noticed the weight would fly off her chest like super fast, but she would just struggle just that last 2 or 3 inches. So one of the things I wanted to do was to make sure that she had an easy time touching, because weight off the chest wasn't really an issue, but to make sure that the sleeves were on a little bit tighter. So we were twisting her arms in, making sure the shirt's snug, making sure that it covers behind the elbow. So as she comes up, she has a little bit more to help her lock out. And when we set the bench shirt and the sleeves, I guess almost perfectly. She smoked it literally,
Yeah,
just
it
like how
was
she would, right?
super
So
fast. And you know, training wise, like we were working right around her PR the whole time. And you know, we said she had was it a five? Where are we at? She had a 5 kilo PR bench. So basically, you know, we were opening right at her PR, and then we went up a little bit, I think, even on her second. But you know, it's just getting that's the fun part of equipped lifting. Like all these things, man, you got to get these variables just right. And you know, you did your magic little touch on the shirt on that third, and she smoked it. It was great.
I'm gonna tell you that one gave me the most heart attack, man. I was like, you know what I mean? You know, as the coach, and you're watching these lifters go, and you know this one is the make it or break it. You know, that's the lift that you're like stressing out the most. You know, especially as a coach. And luckily, she was able to handle all of those factors very well.
So that's what's funny is in the moment, like I knew the situation, but there wasn't even I didn't even have that moment where I was like freaking out. I'm just like, well, you know, it's third attempt, she'll get it. And I told her that afterwards, and she just kind of smiled like, yeah, you know, it is what it is. So I think you're around it enough. Like, you know, first time you're in that situation, it's probably pretty panicky. But I think if you've been lifting equipped long enough, you've probably been in that situation a few times, and you're just like, well, it's just another attempt at this point.
Yeah, you just got to miss it twice, get really mad at yourself, and then come back and get it. You know,
Yep.
That's usually what happens.
Yeah.
Dramatic flair.
Yep. And then moving on to session 2 on Wednesday, Ben Green competed in the 74 kilo M1s. He went 5 for 9, placed second. It wasn't his best day overall. I think he just, you know, maybe they had the taper off just a little bit, and it wasn't quite on, but he did enough to get second, and you know, came away with a silver medal. So pretty good there. All right, that brings us to Mr. Elmore.
Ooh. Yeah. So, you know, I think for the last year or so, Chris has been, I guess, like mentally, he puts like a mental block on himself, and this competition was like a really good awakening for him to like really let him know what he's capable of. And you know, and he had a really great day. We were battling with I forgot his name,
Matt Kiley.
yeah, so we were battling him for first and second, and he kind of gave us a little scare a little bit with his bench opener, you know, 40 keys, like way more than what he originally thought about opening. So as we were going into the squat, subtotal wise, we were down maybe 30 kilos. So as we were making our attempts with Chris, you know, again, with me, Chris, Ben, and Amy, you know, for some reason, when we were down there, we just kept losing weight like crazy. So a lot of our squat suits and bench shirts wasn't fitting 100%. So that was something that I really wanted to make sure that Chris wasn't going to have any issues with, you know, just making sure he's eating, you know, to making sure he's washing the suits and stuff like that. So it fits snug. And with everything said, he was able to squat 570 something, I believe. 573, I believe, for his second attempt. Wanted to go for his third, but he cut that 606 a little high. You know, according to him, the knee wrap was a little too tight, so maybe I should have like calmed down a little bit. Generally, when you're doing a third attempt squat, you kind of want to have the tightest knee wrap, you know, almost no matter what, especially like when you're battling another individual for the win. Doesn't matter. We succeeded in our squat, and we were in a good standing against our opponent, because our opponent was having a fairly rough day. So that kind of made it a little bit easier for us, because Chris was being very consistent. And sometimes as an equipped lifter, it's not always about who's stronger. It's about who makes their lifts. And luckily for Chris, he was consistently making his lifts. Same thing with his bench press. I mean, we opened up with a bench PR, you know, went to 385 on a second, got it really, really good. But again, he was a little light, probably two pounds or something like that, lighter than he normally is. So as the attempts continue to go on, his shirts keep stretching. And then on the third attempt, he just didn't have any more shirt left for any pop. And then for his deadlifts, personally, we were going through the roughest time with his deadlifts. And it's kind of funny how it all worked out that his deadlifts ended up being his best lift at the meet, right? You know, equipped lifting. Sometimes that happens. But we opened up really, really light and ended up with a 529 deadlift to secure the win. And that gave his opponent like a 30 something kilo jump that he had to make on his last deadlift.
Yeah, and it was just a little bit too much for him. Yep.
Yeah, so I mean, we watched it. I mean, his opener was good, his second attempt was good, but that 30 kilo jump was just a little too much. So he ended up pulling it about halfway. And when I saw the up and down, man, I started celebrating already because I was like,
we knew we had it. We knew we had it.
And, you know, this is just something that me and Chris has been talking about like a long time, you know, like about how to get better, you know, what is the upper limits of his strength, and kind of like what you're saying with Amy, you know, this is only the beginning. You know, we don't even know where Chris's true strength lies. It's just a matter of, as we continue to train, we'll see where that goes if you continue to follow Team Roar. So keep that up.
Yeah, one little correction I want to
That's
say.
awesome.
You said he squatted 573 on a second. He squatted 595 on a second.
595.
We don't want to shortchange Chris.
Yeah. 573 was his opener.
Yeah.
So
wow, that's great. I'm super stoked for him. He's got a work ethic.
Yeah, and he started training with us, I think, was it 2011? So he's basically at that 10-year mark, and it's crazy because like just now, like all those little things are starting to come together, and it seems like, man, it's taken so long, but like it's still 10 years is not a big window for powerlifting years. So, you know, it's awesome to see it starting to come together, and like you said, it's really just the beginning, I think, for him. So
yeah,
cool. Then session 3, we had Gretchen. She was lifting in the raw 76 M2 bench only. Do you want to talk about her a little bit?
Yeah, so we were kind of paying attention to the person that was going to give her the most competition. And literally, we were just going to make raw attempts based off of her. Because generally, Gretchen also competed in the equip bench as well. And the main goal was actually to do the equip bench records. So the raw was kind of just more for fun. I mean, it would have been nice if she clutched in the last bench, because that would have like gave her a lot of momentum going into the Friday for the equip bench session. But overall, she came up with a second place finish. Raw bench and everything went a lot better than she thought, you know, but the last bench just wasn't there. You know, it could have been like a technical thing. It could have just been nerves, because one thing that I noticed a lot about Gretchen was she was ready to go, but then as she was ready to go, her session was one session later. So it's almost like all of the nerves that she had as she was ready to compete, she wasn't able to unleash it at the correct time. And she had to hold that in. And I don't know if that might have messed up some of her energy or her mindset going into her third attempt bench. But regardless, it's a big learning curve for her, you know, to do a raw meet and an equip meet in the same week, and having to focus on two things at once, you know. So I think, you know, with all those factors that went well, I think she did pretty well raw wise.
Yeah, I think so too. And then, so I guess then the next lifter we had was her again on Friday, and she lifted equipped.
Yep. So our main goal was the equip bench. The equip bench, I believe, was like 117 and a half or something like that. Or no, 115. It was 115, yep. Which was about 253. So we were laser focused on making sure that she was able to get that record. And coincidentally, she also ended up getting the M1A record as well. So she ended up taking the M1A and M2B equip bench records all in the same day, with her opener, which was about 235, which is also a 15-pound, 16-pound PR for her right from the bat. And then we went for the American record on the second attempt. She missed it just a little bit. Could have been, you know, just something small, something technical. Came back on the third attempt, made sure everything was right, and she smoked it like it should have been the original opener.
Yeah, easy. Yeah, and so that was a 15 and a half kilo PR bench on her third attempt that she hit, and that broke the American record in the M2A as well.
Yep. So, kind of like what we've been saying about
That
some
is
of our lifters,
crazy. A 15 kilo.
this is just the beginning for her. I mean, I think her bench press is going to continue to skyrocket once we kind of get everything down packed. And again, her issue was the same as a lot of the other equipped lifters, just losing too much weight and the equipment wasn't fitting well. So that was something that, us, the coaches, had to finesse the best we could, and ended up working well, so
Yeah.
pretty happy overall.
Yeah, thought she did really good. Also lifting in that session was Brian Albert. He was in the 74 kilo M1 bench only. He went 1 for 3, but he won. So he's a national champion as well as Gretchen. He opened at 160 and then jumped to, I want to say it was like 190 or 190.5 or something like that for an American record. He changed shirts. He missed it on his second, and then did it on his third. Let's see, is that right? I might be saying that wrong, but either way, he pressed it all the way up and locked it out, but there was slight downward motion on, so he got called 3 red lights on that one. But the strength was definitely there, and that American record is definitely, its days are numbered. He's coming for it.
Yep, he's coming for it.
Yep. And then Saturday we had Jenna Weinstein. She lifted in the 57 kilo open. She went 7 for 9 and placed 5th. She squatted a PR, but for whatever reason missed the rack command, so it didn't count. So that's one of those things that we just need to make sure we're fine tuning ahead of time and working on those commands and all those little details. But overall, really solid day. I think she attempted a PR on all 3 lifts on her third and just missed them. But really solid day again. Finished on the podium. What else can you ask for? I guess, especially being her first national meet. And then we also had some guy by the name of James Vang lifting on Saturday. James, you want to talk about your day a little bit?
Ooh, yeah. So, coaching all week, and especially, I don't know if too many people knew this, but roughly 2 weeks before we even went to nationals, I ended up having like a crazy allergic reaction. My hives, like bumps and everything, was like all over my skin. So for 2.5 or so weeks, I haven't squatted, benched, or deadlifted, just to kind of keep the stress and the heat and the irritation away from my body. So going into this meet, I knew there was going to be a lot of rough edges, for me to, again, waking up my nervous system, knowing that I'm coaching multiple people to becoming national champions and stuff like that. There was a lot on my mind. But overall, I was able to come out with a win. I felt like it was probably one of my stronger days. But again, with everything, I was 144 that day. So I ended up being a pound or something, 1.5 pounds under what the original plan was. So my squat suit wasn't fitting the way that I wanted to fit. So if you watch my third squat, there was a slight pause where right when I hit the hole and I came up, where I had to raw lock it out, if that makes sense, with only knee wraps. Because if you look at right after we got done, if you look at my suit, it literally went all the way up into, no man's land, if you know what I mean. And I had literally no legs to kind of help out with that squat, but generally it felt the best. Going into bench, I was already getting super tired. So I knew this was literally my body reminding me that, hey, you haven't touched a barbell, you haven't gone through the procedures and all the heavy weights in a while. So it was literally reminding me that the training that I've done all the way up until now has succeeded to this point. Got the bench opener, went for a 452 or something like that bench. And this was the first time, again, you using the bolt. So again, if nobody knows what that is, it's Inzer's new bench shirt, something that we're messing with. And we pulled the collar a little bit too tight on the second attempt. So I had a really rough time trying to bring it down. And then I had to kind of like get loose, and that wasn't going up with 450. So I was thinking if we go up a little bit heavier and pull the shirt a little bit less, everything would have went well. But for some weird reason, it could have been, my right elbow or something like that, because a lot of people don't know this, but I have extra hypermobile elbows. So sometimes when I hold the weight up in the air, it doesn't look like fully locked or something like that. So I had my third attempt bench press up in the air for a little bit longer than I want. So as I was bringing the weight down, I started seeing stars already. So right when I got the press command and I pressed, I literally passed out for a couple of seconds. So that just happens. It's equipped lifting. Something that you have to be prepared for. And we kind of went smart on the deadlift as well. Open up fairly light on the squats and the deadlift just to make sure my body was doing well. Ended up pulling 573 for my second attempt, and then we just cut it there because again, any more than that would just be risking injury. We already won, so let's just go ahead and shut it down and save it for another day. Get my body back into the groove of things, figure out what's going on with my hives, and get everything else kind of toned down, and hopefully I'll have a better day. But I was maybe 40 kilos short of my best meet. So again, always a lot of work to do, always time to figure out, what's going on with my body, how to get my body weight correct, and how to get the suits to fit correctly. But I believe with all of those factors, I still ended up taking the W. So can't really complain overall.
Yeah. One thing I thought was really cool I want to mention is, for your third deadlift, we turned in a number, just a timeout. You could turn in a 0. But then it would just basically pass you, and it would just make it faster for everybody else. So by turning in a number and letting it time out, it gave everybody, the same amount of time as if you were attempting it. But the part that I thought was really cool is right as, they're getting ready to load the bar for you for your timeout, you come up and you're like, hey, I still have that minute. Can I go out there and like thank all the spotters and loaders and referees and everything? And I'm like, yeah. And it just kind of caught me off guard a little bit. I'm like, that's really cool. Like to think that, you intentionally went out of your way to go out and thank them during that time where it wasn't going to affect anybody else's lifting. You used your minute to go out and thank all the volunteers. I thought that was pretty cool. And I would like to see more of that, I think, from people. I think that's really cool.
Yeah. I mean, I think a lot of the times when we compete, especially equipped lifters, we tend to get really angry, especially like if we miss lifts and things like that, forgetting that the referees and the spotters and loaders has been working all week long, and they're just as tired, if not even more tired than we are. So one thing that I always want to do, especially because I know I got kids watching me, especially my own, and other younger lifters watching me, it's just good to kind of let them know, like, hey, it's not always about winning or doing the biggest lifts. Sometimes it just has a lot to do with appreciation. So, if anybody was watching me during that moment, I was just hoping like a lot of people learn that, no matter if you get lifts or not, red lighted or not, PRs or not, none of that really matters. What matters is just you showing your appreciation for the sport and the people who give back. And I'm hoping that that's the message that people got when I did that.
Yeah, I thought that was really cool. Really cool moment. And I think it's,
Wow,
I think,
awesome.
I think a lot of people are we'll see that saw that, or just, it kind of reminds them of, what people give to be part of it, and, what it takes to make the sport run. So I thought that was really cool.
Yeah, and one more thing too, it just goes to show, like, all the people that I surround with, what I've been taught learning powerlifting. So again, if you want to know where a lot of that comes from, Team Quest, Quest Nutrition, Team Roar, a lot of these people taught me a lot about powerlifting, especially Josh. He probably volunteers so much over the last 10 years. It was probably rare seeing him in the back there. So, just wanted to remind everybody, where I grew up at, and who taught me how to lift. So, just keep that as a reminder as well.
Yeah. A couple other notes I want to mention. So, Ashley Hanna is one of the girls on our team. She went down to help coach, and she was also taking her national referee exam down there. So she, sticking with that theme of giving back, she passed her national referee exam. So big props and congrats to her. And then she also spent the rest of her time down there helping coach back there. So she did a really great job. And I think, it's fun for me watching other coaches learn and ask questions and evolve too, because, she used to get so nervous. I wouldn't say nervous, but just like anxious and excited to be coaching that, sometimes it would make the lifters nervous. And like, that's something that, I did as well. And like her and I talked about it, and we both have been working on, and she did it. I had multiple lifters come up to me that she was working with that afterwards and just really say how much that they really appreciated her, just like really being like that quiet, calm presence where they knew she was there to help, but there was no like distraction, no anxiety like coming from her. And she just did a really good job. Like she did a lot of the number selections when she was coaching, and just did a really good job, and just wanted to give her a shout out. Super proud of how she's growing in the sport, both as now a national referee and as a coach. And these are in a lot of ways, in addition, she started as a lifter and she's still a lifter. But I think she's really evolving. She has an identity now in all of these different aspects of the sport. And I think it's pretty cool.
Agreed.
Yep. And then one other quick note, the Atlanta Open is this weekend, Saturday. We have a first-time lifter on our team competing, Olivia Villela. So we will be there coaching her and, wishing her best of luck, and hopefully she has a lot of fun and remembers her first meet in a very positive light. So
I'm going to be reffing, so I'm going to be there as well. So,
all right, cool. All right. So we're going to move into the 80s album top 5 tournament. We have the results from round 2. These are interesting. We had number 1 ranked Cindy versus number 4 Chris, and the voting on the PL Ballads Instagram was 7-7, so it was a tie. And on the Team Roar Instagram, it was 22-6 in favor of Chris. So Chris moves on to the listener final round with a score of 29-13 over Cindy. And then our other matchup was number 3 ranked Steven versus number 7 Amy. And on the Team Roar Instagram, we had a 16-16 tie. So the tiebreaker came via the PL Ballads podcast Instagram voting, which was 11-3 in favor of Amy. So Amy moves on to face Chris with a score of 27-19. So just a reminder, the winner of Chris versus Amy will get a $25 worth of Team Roar apparel. And then this Saturday, we are also going to have the championship of the hosts, meaning Laura and I will be facing each other, and we will see who wins that one.
Yes, we will.
Yes, we will. So if the listener, whoever wins between Chris and Amy, they automatically get $25 worth of apparel. But if they end up beating the winner of Laura versus myself, then that becomes $50. So definitely go vote for who you think has the best album on Saturday. Me. All right. So just if you do want to vote, we will have it posted on Instagram on PL Ballads Podcast and also at Team Roar. You can vote on the Instagram stories on Saturday. I think it creeps into Sunday a little bit too. It's a 24-hour vote once it's posted. So definitely tell your friends, go vote, and we will see who has the best list of top 5 80s albums.
So exciting. I mean, that's, really why we're here, to kind of talk about powerlifting, but mostly 80s music.
Yes.
Not really. Maybe the other way. I don't know.
Who cares? We'll call it a day there. Thank you guys for tuning in to the podcast, and we will talk to you all next week. Later.
Bye now.
Thank you so much for listening. If you enjoyed today's episode of the Powerlifting and Power Ballads podcast, please remember to subscribe and share it with your friends.